Welcome listeners of the Judo Edit podcast to the second episode of season 2. Today, I'm very excited to be chatting with Australian Olympian Matt D'Aquino. He has won 8 continental championships and competed at the Beijing Olympics in 2008. Now that he is retired, Matt has not slowed down at all but continued to use his experience to start his own judo club in Canberra. He also produces so many judo videos and resources, it seems like he's responsible for at least 50% of the judo information on the internet. Mm-hmm. So, welcome Matt, how are you going?
Good, how are you doing today?
I'm really good, and I'm really excited to be talking to you because you are one of the athletes that I sort of watched growing up as a junior myself, and I'm not sure if you remember, but I think I did an Oceania competition with you in Tahiti.
Oh yeah, so 2005? No, 6.
Way back when.
2006.
So before we get into some of the meatier questions, I like to start with some really easy questions to build a framework for the listeners about who you are and, you know, what your style of judo is like. So to begin with, where did you grow up and where are you currently based?
Yes, I was born and raised in Canberra, which is the capital of Australia. And I still live here now. So
nice.
Yeah.
In terms of your judo, do you fight right-handed or left-handed, and what's your favourite throw?
Yep, so I'm a right-hander, and I think growing up I was a drop seoi-nage player, and then I changed to become a leg grabber like kata-grima and marotagaris, and they got banned. And so then I switched to being just a traditional right-sided lapel and sleeve player that does osotos. I mean, working on haragoshi, kouchigari. Yeah, that's about it.
Yeah. So how come after, those leg grabs got taken out, you didn't go back to practicing more drop seoi-nage?
Oh, because I had 5 knee operations, so my knees are pretty shattered anyway.
Oh, wow. 5?
Yeah. I think I did a video on it for YouTube the other day that I'll post up in the next few days. But pretty much I just did drop seoi wrong and just destroyed myself.
Right, okay. So these are supposed to be short questions, but there's too much in that for me to go into it. So first of all, what is wrong drop seoi-nage? Because I feel like a lot of people would like to avoid that. And what is right?
Well, it's pretty much what I used to do is just drop from a standing position to my knees because that's how I got taught and that's the only way I thought it was done.
Yeah.
And then there's a guy in my state called Vu who's just an absolute drop seoi-nage monster. And it's a combination of, I think, 1, doing drop seoi, but 2, just being an elite athlete and training and having injuries. And every athlete has some sort of injury, whether it's shoulder, wrist, elbow, back, knee. And, mine were knees and someone else's is shoulders. So knees and drop seoi don't go well together, I guess. Anyway, then once I retired, I asked him to teach me his drop seoi-nage and he pretty much showed me how to do it, completely different to how I do it. He pretty much takes the front step, and I've done it on a YouTube video that I'll upload, like I said, in the next few days.
Yeah.
Because someone asked me the same question, how do I protect my knees doing drop seoi? And he kind of back steps. He steps forward, then he back steps. He twists really low. He pretty much drops to the ground with his knees already very close to the ground. So rather than dropping from, if you're standing up, rather than dropping from knee height, so you're dropping from ankle to lower shin height. So you're a lot closer to the mat, which means less impact on the knees.
Yeah, actually that makes a lot of sense. And now I'm thinking back to how I learned drop seoi-nage, and I think I learned it the same way as you, and it was just so painful.
Yeah, that's right.
I guess, would you now teach drop seoi-nage to kids, or is the fact that there's so much actually that goes into that technique to get that right from a physiological standpoint enough that you would refrain from doing so? Yeah,
look, I think the judo rules are kids in Australia can't do drop seoi-nage or seotoshi until they're over 12 years old. But I kind of teach at my club that there's full stop throws and there's comma throws.
Yeah.
So any satemi waza is a full stop throw, meaning the tachiwaza randori is finished. Mm-hmm. And a lot of clubs only do tachiwaza randori. So if I'm fighting you and you do drop seoi-nage, my tachiwaza, my game is now finished because my uke is now dropped. Mm-hmm. Then we stand up, we get re-grip and you drop again. Then we stand up and re-grip and you drop again. And so it's actually stopping the flow of the randori. So I call them full stop throws. So drop seoi-nage, yoko tomonage, any satemi waza, that stops. But if you can do a standing sinagi and you miss it, the game continues. It's like a comma throw. So the sentence continues, or the sentence can stop with a full stop, or a comma can continue. So I kind of just teach comma throws, don't teach full stop throws, because it stops the flow of both of us practicing our judo, because you're just dropping all the time. So yeah, that's kind of what I like to teach. Now at a higher level competition, different. Yes, you can do a drop sinagi, and in competition, in training against a competitor, I will transition in newaza. But it all depends on what the coach rules are allowed and all the rest of it. But yeah, all in all, I don't teach drop sinagi.
Yeah.
And in the last tournament in Canberra, all my athletes lost to drop sinagi. So I was like, okay, if they can, and because it shows you once again, recreational people don't need to learn it, but if they compete, they need to learn grip fighting, even though they're young, and they need to learn drop sinagi. So I've now have forced to teach it because of the current climate of competition judo. So yeah. But all in all, I don't recommend it. Like, it's a full stop throw, and I've fought people that drop and drop and drop and drop, and they just become annoying to train with. They're dropping so often. So yeah, but they're banned from under 12 anyway in Australia, and a lot of countries. So yeah.
Sure. Okay, that was actually a deep dive into one of the throws that I now realize I was doing wrong for a long time, but I'm going to definitely link that video that by the time this podcast is uploaded, your video will probably be uploaded before. So I'll link that in the description below if you want to learn how to do drop sinagi correctly and safely.
I think you can't do it wrong. It's just different, because there's no right. There's really no right in judo. There's so much. This is how you do it. Well, that's not true. Like, there's so much of, you might do your drop sinagi and it might be better than mine. So next time we meet up, you can teach me. And I might go, wow, Vu does it like this and you do it like that. And now I've learned 2 ways to teach someone. And one of my students does it your way and the other student does it like Vu. Boom, everyone's happy. So that's the main thing. So there's no right or wrong. It's just an approach to drop sinagi that may be different to what I got learned and what I got taught. Yeah,
for sure. I've been doing a little bit of reading of your book, Hard Fought Lessons. And you introduced the story by talking about your mum. So can you tell us a little bit about Cheryl and how she got you started in judo?
Yeah, so my brother and I, he's 18 months older than me, and we used to fight every day after training, after school, before school, on the weekends. And my mum was like, I'm sick of it. So she went to the local PCYC, which is like a YMCA, if for other people that may be listening from other countries, or just a community hall, and there was judo there, so we got involved there. Yeah. And then my brother and I really liked it, and we were good at it, and I liked the fact that a small person can beat a bigger person. And yeah, we really took to it and really enjoyed it. So that's kind of where judo got started. Yeah, we got started because we just wrestled all the time, and my mum was like, these kids have to go and do wrestling outside of the house.
Yeah, for sure. And so at what stage did you realize that you wanted to sort of commit to competing in this sport?
Yeah, so pretty much I'm one of the rare ones that stuck with it, but we started competing from 5-6 years old onwards, which is a lot of countries follow long-term athlete development, or FTEM kind of athlete development, where competing doesn't start till like 12, 13, 14. But yeah, we started at 5 and 6 years old. My mum would drive us to Sydney, so 3 hours to St Mary's RSL Judo Club, and we do tournaments every month. So yeah, but I kind of pretty much at about 8 years old, the club we were at, the coach said to my mum, look, you two boys are pretty good at this sport, but if they want to get better and you want them to improve further, they have to go to the club up the road, because this club is a bit of a recreational club, but these guys need a little bit extra. So we moved to the club up the road with the hills, and that's where all the Olympians were training. And so at 11 years old, I was like, I want to go to the Olympics for judo. Like, that's what I want to do. So
wow, at 11.
So at 11, so being in that environment, seeing my coaches training for the Olympics, training hard, traveling the world, I was like, yep, that's what I want to do.
And, you mentioned that you were one of the few that stuck with it. Were there any points in your sort of progression towards your goals that you questioned why you were doing it, or you almost didn't stick with it?
Oh yeah, all the time. I mean, I remember being tired from school and saying to my mum, I don't want to go judo today. And she goes, okay, well, obviously you don't want to go to the Olympics then, because Olympians go to training and people that don't make the Olympics don't go to training. And I was like, well, I'm not going. And 5 minutes later, I'd sit there and be like, all right, I'm going. I'll pack my bag, go train. So all the time, because the fact is if you train when you feel like training, you'll never train. No one feels like training.
Yeah.
You're tired. You've got a uni assignments to do. I've got 2 kids. It's hard work. But you train because it's a decision that you make, not a feeling that you feel. Yeah, and then you go to Japan and you just get annihilated by everyone, or Korea, and you go, why am I doing this? Why am I here spending all my money, getting bashed by people that are ranked 200th in their nation, if not even ranked at all?
Yeah.
Like, why am I doing this? And the pain, 18 rounds of 6 minutes in Japan. I probably only did about 15 rounds of 6 minutes. And your body's so sore and you can't move. Yeah. And you just go, why am I doing this?
Yeah.
That's right, because this is what Olympians do to get to the Olympics. So yeah, I questioned it all the time. But you just go back to the decision you made and what you want. Yeah. But if you feel, So, but heaps of people go, is this worth it? No, it's not. And they quit. And that's fine. But they made a decision that it's too hard, or they want to give up, and that's fine.
Yeah. So you mentioned training in Japan there, and I understand you were there for something ridiculous, like you've been there 14 times or something like that. Yeah. Do you still remember the first time you flew over to Japan to train there? Yeah.
So the first time I went to Japan, I went by myself. I went over to a place called Chukyo University, and I trained there for a week and a half on my own. And then on the very last, I was quite old, actually. I was about 19. But I'd been to Europe before that a fair bit through the Junior World Championships and stuff like that. So I was a bit later going to Japan. And then on the last day when I was there, I tore my ACL. I was really tired. It was the last round. The guy spun me around, did no Soligari, and I tore my ACL. And then the next day, I met up with John Buckley, Josh Cook, Sonia Shavonsky, remember all those guys? And they were like, "You all right?" I'm like, "I've just got a sore knee." And this was 6 months. I had a knee operation in February, and then I went to Japan must have been April or May, and then I tore my ACL. So then I was out for 13 months. But yeah, that was my first time going to Japan. It was awesome. It was the first kind of time, and I went by myself. So it's pretty lonely going by yourself. When there's 200 Japanese on the mat and then just you. Yeah. And it's lonely, but you don't go to make friends. You do make friends, but
no, for sure, yeah. Did they take care of you, or did you feel like you're a bit of a target?
No, they took care of me. At this place, I think I didn't make myself take careable, as in I would just go to training and leave straight away, go back to my room. But I think I'd encourage people now, if they do go to Japan, is to get to training early, do the session and hang out and make friends, because you actually have way more fun when you're friends with the local people rather than just going there 2 minutes before training starts and then leaving straight away and going back to your room. You actually make less friends and have less fun.
For sure.
Yeah. Same as training at the club now, right? You get to train a little bit early, you hang out, make friends, and you stay afterwards. You have way more fun at training when you train with friends.
Yeah, exactly.
And it takes time to make friends.
Yeah, it does. And so, you talk about being 19 and just missing out on that previous Olympic cycles funding. What was the journey like to sort of set your sights on Beijing in 2008 and to qualify for that Olympics? Because I understand that you also had another knee recon in 2005. So what was the process like?
Yeah. And having a knee injury like in 2005 to 2006. So it does stuff up your preparation a little bit. Yeah.
And then, so were you mainly competing in 2006, 2007 to try and qualify for that?
Yeah, that's right. So I had my knee recon in 2005. And then you know how we went to Tahiti together?
Yes.
That trip, I was ranked fourth in the because I missed all the tournaments, I was ranked fourth in my division, so I didn't get selected. But then someone pulled out, so I got a late ticket to go to Tahiti. So that was my probably first tournament, or first or second tournament after my knee reconstruction. And then I think I won that one, 2006.
Awesome.
That was pretty cool. And then I don't know. Your sights are always on the Olympics. They never are not on it. Like if that's your goal, that's your goal. So every day was like, okay, like at the moment with the virus, like we can't train. Well, what's your goal? Is to get flexible, to get fit, what is it? Like your goal doesn't change. The pathway to get there does, but the goal stays the same. So yeah, it was just a bump in the road, I guess. So sure. Yeah, and then to make the Olympics, the qualification back then is a little bit easier. It's just through the region or through Oceania. So you had to be number 1 in the Oceania region, but now it's top 18 in the world. So it's a little bit different.
Yeah. So you get to Beijing, it's 2008, you're in, the Olympic Stadium on fight day. What does it feel like to walk into that arena?
Oh, it's a nerve-wracking. As in when I'm walking out to fight. Oh, it's just exciting. It's exciting to fight at the Olympics. But it's nerve-wracking, but it's like any other tournament. That's how you have to treat it. You still got to beat the guy that's, the guy or girl that you've kind of got first round. So my kind of goal was on trying to just kind of beat that first person. And yeah, it's kind of like my goal wasn't to make the Olympics. My goal was to win the Olympics. And so making it was cool, but not really what I wanted. So when I think of the Olympics, I almost have I have a heavy heart opposed to a happy heart because it's not what I wanted out of it, if that makes sense. I can't tell people it's like going for your dream job but not getting it.
Yeah.
And people will say, oh, well, at least you got the interview. And you're like, I don't care about the interview. I just wanted the job, right? I don't care about the interview. Oh, but you interviewed well. Who cares? I wanted the job. And so the Olympics for me is kind of like that. It's like I got the interview, but I didn't get the job.
And
look, it was great. Yeah.
You know what? It sounds like the top competitors all think that way. They're like, if I didn't win, if I came second, I'm disappointed. I was listening to an interview with Grant Hackett and he was like, all of my silver medals are losses, which is extremely heavy, but it's sort of goes to show how focused you are on that gold medal. Yeah,
that's right. Yeah. I mean, you go to win, right?
Yeah, exactly.
And you do go to fight your best, but if I fight my best as an elite athlete, kids are different. But if I fight my best as an elite athlete and lose first round, that sucks. I'd rather fight terribly and win than fight my best and lose. But but for kids, it's the other way around. We just want them to fight their best. And if they lose, it's all good. But the high levels, yeah.
So after taking a loss like that, how do you pick yourself back up to keep going?
You just do. You reevaluate your goals. So you go, okay, well, what do I want to do? So after the Olympics, my fiance Sam and I, we got married. And then we got married in December. Then the year later, I enrolled in uni to become a primary school teacher. And so my life direction changed. And then in 2000, and then I had 6 months off after the Olympics. And then 2009, I came back competing, and then I won that Pac Rim Champs, which gave me the highest level of funding in Australia. So that was cool. So then I got funding to go overseas. And then in 2010, the International Judo Federation removed leg grabs. And so that was when I was like, okay, well, literally all my throws are banned. And I would go to training. I couldn't throw green belts with Osotogari or Haragoshi. I couldn't throw anyone. And I was like, this sucks because all the judo they've been working for so long is no longer there. So I evaluated switching to wrestling because I've wrestled in Australia. I came second in Australia in freestyle wrestling. And so then I thought I'll switch to wrestling. But then I was like, nah, wrestling, it's still, I don't know, I'm still a judo player at heart. So then I just stick to judo and try to revamp my style. And now I've got a very kind of classical style of judo, I guess.
Yeah.
I try it, I think, with a hybrid mix of wrestling, I guess. Yeah, so then I just, try to make the next Olympics.
And, it obviously sounds like even though you may not have made the next Olympics, taking the time to almost relearn your judo and then get to a competitive level despite that, that's still quite an amazing accomplishment. Yeah.
I think most of my international wins were on the ground. So I didn't throw many people, but I could do a crappy sumigation, then armbar them, hold them down or strangle them. Because of my Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu, I'd been doing Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu for a while then. So my ground game was pretty good and my transitions. But in the end, I mean, the whole world had to restyle their judo. Not everyone, but a lot of people. So I was in the same boat as everyone else. But I was a product of just focusing on your strengths. Yeah. And I remember listening to Tito Ortiz, which is a UFC fighter, interview years and years ago, and he said that he used to do this really cool single leg takedown. And he could hit it on everyone. Like anyone that he fought, he would hit the single leg takedown or a double leg, whatever it was. And his coach said to Tito, he noticed he was doing it all the time. And he said to him, if you live by that, you'll die by that. As in, if you only live by that one technique or one attack, once everyone learns how to defend it, you'll have nothing left. And I felt like that was me. I lived by fireman's kata grimas and double legs and teigurumas, and then I also died by that because I didn't allow myself to develop other areas of my judo. And when they removed them, I'm now left as a third degree black belt with green belt level judo, but black belt level wrestling, right? So the whole idea is we have to continually focus on our weaknesses in training, especially when you're fighting the green belts and blue belts and low-level brown and black belts, so you can keep developing your judo rather than focusing on your strengths.
And I guess across the years that you were an elite competitor, what were the fights that you have sort of kept in mind as the highlight fights of your career, so that, you know, our listeners can look them up and I can link them below on YouTube?
Yeah, I don't really have many highlight fights because each fight has a different lesson.
Okay.
So, for example, my friend Nikola Pejic, and every time you drew Nikola, you go, oh man, this is going to be a war. Like, this is going to be 5 minutes of pain, and I'll win, but it's going to be a hassle. So he taught me to like accept the pain, accept the fact it's going to be a hard match. I've got another one where I fought a guy from Blacktown who beat me all the time. When we went to the ground, he would just rough me up big time.
Yeah.
And it really shook me. And I came off the mat and I said to Mum, I was crying because I lost, because I always tried. And then Mum would say, what are you crying for? I said, oh, because on the ground he was doing this and doing that. And my mum just goes, and it's competition. You do that first to them. And I was like, oh, okay. So that guy taught me that don't be on the back foot with aggression and with asserting my dominance over them. Don't let them to do it to you first. So that person taught me that. So each kind of, I mean, Ivo de Santos is another one that, like, every time you fought Ivo, it was just a war. And so he taught me resilience, to dig deep, that this guy's going to go into golden score and how bad do I want it. So I guess each person has a different kind of story to tell, which actually shapes who I am. And it's got nothing to do with judo. Really. Yeah. It's got to do with like my internal being of myself. But the other one I have is the Pac Rim, and I can link it to you, where I won the Pac Rim Championships, and I'm the only Aussie male to win it. Yeah. Pretty much I made the final against a Japanese guy, and everyone thought I was going to lose because Japan win all the time. Yeah. And he was ranked, he came third in the Kodokan Cup, so that's a pretty high-level tournament in Japan. Yeah. And when I talked to people, they were like, who got in the final? I said, oh, Japan. They're like, oh, that sucks. Like, wow. You know, second place is pretty good. Like, that was the kind of the atmosphere in the room. Yeah. Yeah. And I talked to my wife, and she was like, babe, you've been training so hard. I reckon you smash this guy. I was like, yeah, I reckon I can too. Like, but everyone thinks I'm going to lose. And then as I was going to the bathroom, me and this Azumi guy, we bumped shoulders. Yeah. And so we ran into each other. And as we were both apologizing, he looked at my gi and it said Beijing 2008 on it. Hey, babe, how you doing? My wife's here. My daughter's here. Hi, Bonnie. I was just telling Mel about the Izumi guy. Anyway, so as I'm fighting this, as I'm going to the bathroom, we clash shoulders, and then we're kind of apologizing to each other. Then he sees on my gear, it says Beijing 2008. And the guy goes, Olympics. I said, yeah, Olympian, Beijing. And he goes, oh, and his face was like, oh dear, I'm fighting an Olympian. And he looked really freaked out. And I was like, I'm going to beat this guy, didn't I, babe? And then I came out and I just obliterated him, didn't I, Sam? I did so good, and I beat the guy. And so that fight kind of just taught me, and I'll link it to it. It's on my YouTube channel. Yeah. But it kind of taught me that just because other people think you're going to lose, don't let them speak negatively towards you. And actually, like, who cares? People think you're going to lose. Big whoop. Who cares? Like, but I talked to Sam, and she was like, "Nah, babe, you're going to smash this guy. Like, you've been training so hard and that sort of stuff." So that's a highlight fight. For sure. So yeah, I guess all my highlight fights. Yeah. All my highlight fights are more just people teaching me something that's actually going to help build to who I am, I guess.
In Hard Fought Lessons, you have a whole chapter dedicated to comfort zones and how they were made to be broken. What were some of the comfort zones that you had to break in order to reach the level that you did?
Yeah, I think the first one is asking for help and say, hey, I need a gym program, or I need a partner to help me out. I think the biggest one, the one I needed to break, was ego. Like I said, at training I would just be bashing blue belts with kata groomers and double legs and pickups, and until the IJF banned them. Yeah. And then all of a sudden you're left with nothing. So your comfort zone is where you can push yourself further than you want to go. And a big one is ego. Like, a lot of people, like, I don't want to fight a blue belt if I can't throw them. Like, my ego gets in the way, so I revert back to doing kata groomers again. So I think actually changing my view of judo and go, okay, I'm fighting a lower level person. I need to be working on the throws that I'm not very good at. Does that mean they say, hey, Matt didn't throw me today? Yeah, they do, but who cares? Oh, Bonnie. We got up at 5:15 this morning. she's a little bit sick, so she's kind of had not a fun day.
Even lately, have there been any comfort zones that you had to break that you felt made you reach another level?
I think the comfort zone at the moment to reach another level would be what's happening with this virus. And so, me and my wife always go, wow, like we run this incredible judo club and it's just great people and it's really fun and I get paid to do judo. This is awesome. And it's comfortable. And then before you know it, it's shut down and we have no money and no income. And you kind of go, well, that's a comfort zone that's now being completely burst open, not because I've chosen to, but because of circumstances. And so now we've had to kind of reevaluate and that sort of stuff. That's definitely a comfort zone that has been broken. But I think, just finding where are you comfortable and where can you push a bit further. And, it might even be in your cardio or your exercise, getting a personal trainer will actually push you further out of that than you would normally. And so wherever you can, if you can put yourself as like the dumbest person in the room or the person that doesn't know anything, that's going to get you out of your comfort zone and actually help you learn and improve and get better at whatever area.
Yeah. And one of the recurring themes that it's apparent within your journey is the faith in God. So when did faith first come into the picture for you?
So we kind of went to church on and off as a kid, and I used to play rugby league, which is like, I don't even know if other people around the world know what that is. It's like Grenade, I guess, or something. And so that was on a Sunday, so we only went to church when rugby league wasn't on. So I kind of went to church on and off as a kid. As a teenager, I started going to church down the road. And I kind of liked going and liked listening and that sort of stuff and listening about God and things like that. And then I kind of left church. I didn't go back for a long time, mainly I think because I didn't make any friends there. And I think I didn't make any friends there because at like I said, 11 and 12, I was like, I want to go to the Olympics for judo. Like I was pretty driven. Like as a 12-year-old, I would get up and go for a run every morning and I'd do push-ups and sit-ups and chin-ups. And I was a pretty driven person, and all my peers, and they weren't like me, like they were different. And so I'd go to church and be like, all these people are idiots. Like they're just like it's completely judgmental, obviously. But there's an element of like, I don't fit in here. Like none of you guys play sport. None of you guys play sport. None of you guys know what you're going to do when you grow up. None of you, like I have nothing in common with any of you guys at all. And so I kind of just stopped going. And I would occasionally read the Bible and just kind of, and then I think when did we meet, Sam? We were 18. Then I met my wife, Sam, and I just kind of told her about God and Jesus and church and that sort of stuff. And then she was like, oh, I feel like I want to go to church. I was like, all right. So we just kind of talked to a friend of mine, and he said, I'll go to the church down the road here. So we went there, and we've been there ever since.
Oh, that's awesome.
Yeah.
And have there been times when, I guess, having a faith in God has helped you throughout your judo, like in terms of maybe when there have been down moments, or how has it impacted your judo career?
Yeah, I think the biggest one was when I missed out on the 2012 Olympics, where I tried to make it and I didn't make it. You had to be top 22 in the world to qualify for those Olympics, and I was ranked in the very last tournament. I was ranked, I think, maybe 25th in the world, and Arnie Dickens from Australia was ranked out of the whole world. He was maybe 28th.
Yeah.
And the last Oceania, whoever won this one would give us enough points to be top 22, and he beat me with this awesome Kojigaki pickup thing. And so he beat me, and so he went to 22nd or 21st in the world, and I dropped to 20, maybe 29th, so I missed out on the Olympics. And that was a pretty down moment for me, going, like I literally thought I was going to make the Olympics. I was a double the better judo player than I was in 2008. I was fit, I was strong, I was training really well, but it just didn't happen. And so I was pretty sad and that sort of stuff. But I remember talking to my pastor. I rang him and said, I didn't make the Olympics. And he just goes, we love it for who you are, not what you do. And I was like, oh, right. Then just kind of just thinking that, God does have a good plan for me and good purposes, and not everything in life goes my way. Doesn't mean God doesn't love me. Doesn't mean he's not for me. Just means that's just not what's going on. I kind of just hung on to the fact that he knows me. He loves me. That kind of just helped me get through that kind of time. And I still hang on to that today, right? That's just scripture.
Yeah, for sure.
And so when stuff like this happens or anything, you kind of go, well, God loves me. He's for me. He's not against me. Yeah, it's helped me in so many areas of life, not just sport.
Yeah, I love it. And as competitors, as an athlete, most of your attention and focus is towards this one goal. And when that's sort of broken open, you have to look at, I guess, big picture stuff. It takes a little while to readjust.
Yeah, that's right. I think it does take a little while to readjust, and that's why that post-Olympic depression is like a real thing. And so many Olympians have those kind of thoughts and stuff because, your whole life is put into this thing, whether it's your job or judo or whatever.
Yeah.
But it's important to realize that like people would say, I remember growing up, people would be like, oh, this guy's Matt, he's going to go, he's going to be Olympian one day. And I used to love it because that was my identity. That's who I was. I was known for this judo guy that's going to make the Olympics. And then when I did make the Olympics, everyone's like, oh, Matt's going to the Olympics, and you kind of love it. Mm-hmm. But then after a while you go, well, I'm actually sick of being called Matt the judo Olympic guy. Like I'm also I'm a dad and a son and a husband and a friend and I also do weights and, like I'm not just this one. I'm just not a judo player. That's like a 10% of my identity, but it's actually not who I am. I'm so much more than that. Yeah. I think it's really important for people to know that like you're more than actually your job and your sport and your goals because you're actually valued and you've got skills and talents that are to be given to this world, and it's not all about you. But your identity is not in who you are. It's not in what you do. It's who you are. Mm-hmm. That's kind of that's the thing that carries on into the future is actually who you are, not what you did or what you do now. That's why I go around schools and I talk to schools about what do they want to be when they grow up. Yeah. But it's actually the wrong question to ask. And I shouldn't say this because there's an element of like, chase your dreams, chase your goals. What do you want to be when you grow up? Do you want to be an Olympian or a doctor or a graphic designer? That's all cool. But the real question is, who do you want to be? Like, who do you want to be? Do you want to be a kind, generous, loving person? Yeah. Or do you want to be, like, what sort of person do you want to be? Okay, that's actually way more important than what you do. So that's just an interesting question to ask is who do you want to be? Yeah, not what do you want to do? So, and so for me, kind of reshifting my focus to my identity is found in God and what he says about me, not about my circumstances or what's going on is just a valuable thing and that I can view myself from his point rather than from my own or other people's. It helps you a lot. Yeah. Matt, that's so good. I'm just sitting here trying to process that all. Thank you for sharing about that part of your life because it's not something that gets talked about that, going through the hard times and that's not talked about a lot. I was going to say, I think that's kind of like one problem with like not today's society, but just in general, like kids especially see Ronaldo on a Sunday playing soccer, but they don't see him every day training 3 times a day to become that person. Mm-hmm. And it's actually in those hard times where you get shaped, like, and chasing your goals. Like no one really cares. Like very few people really care whether you make the Olympics or not. Very few. Mm-hmm. Like your close friends. Other people just want you to make the Olympics so they can tell everyone they know someone that made the Olympics or they know someone that's a this or that. It's really it's more about them than about you anyway. But so it's kind of the glitz and the glamour, but there's just so much pain and stuff along the way. I remember coming home, my wife always says, you think you're a big, tough judo guy, but I've seen you cry in the shower constantly. Coming home from training camps and just being so sore from head to toe, fingers, knees, elbows, mat burns and gi burns and just crying in the shower going, I'm so in so much pain. Yeah. That's what you want to go through. And that's, if you can't, then, you probably won't make it or you'll quit pretty soon. But at the elite level, it's hard.
Hey there, listeners. Just taking a brief break to let you know that I have started a Patreon account. This means that if you enjoy tuning in and want to show your appreciation for the Judo Edit podcast, you can chip in $3 per month to help me keep the podcast going. Head over to patreon.com/thejudoedit or click on the link in the description below. As a bonus, if you become a supporter on Patreon, you'll get to find out which guests are coming up for the next episode and also have the opportunity to submit questions that you would like that guest to answer. Secondly, shout out to IpponPhotos for providing the image for this episode. Head over to IpponPhotos on Facebook to see more of his talent. Now, back to the show. And so now that you're sort of stepped back from the competition side of things, you don't have to cry in the shower every night anymore.
Just sometimes.
So how do you sort of watch judo? What's your process in thinking about judo techniques? Because it sounds like from talking to you previously, you don't think about throws in isolation. You're thinking about systems and where throws connect to grips and grips connect to throws and that into transitions. Like, how do you think about judo?
So the first thing is like no throw works in isolation. Like an osotogari only works if you have a throw before it and after it. So I might have a sasai into osoto. So I do a sasai and then you defend it and I can get the osoto. Or I do a diashi, you defend it, I get the osoto. Or I do an osoto, you defend that, I get an oguruma or ashiguruma or an owuchi. So yeah, I think firstly you got to find out what works into and out of the technique.
Mm-hmm.
And also judo's a game. You know, growing up, my friend Josh would say, I play judo. And I'd be like, you don't play judo, you do judo. But now I get what he means is that it's a game. You just play it. And so I need to get into your head and think, what's Mel thinking about? She's thinking I'm going to do Sioe. And when I do this, I reckon she's going to sit back, and when she does, I'm going to do a kouchi. Mm-hmm. And then you do. And it works. It's a game. And so I know Roddy Ferguson says judo players have to be master salesmen. We have to sell techniques. Mm-hmm. And when we sell it and you take it, then I own you, sort of thing. So I kind of really like that approach. So I think for judo, it's about what throw is before and afterwards, and how to get in your partner's head. So I love it. People go, I do this, so they think that, and because they think that, they react like this, and that's why this move works. Mm-hmm. But this is the tricky part. Like, it's this really nitty gritty part of judo that it's so much easier just to get your class to rep out uchikomi and then do randori. But it's getting to the nitty gritty is kind of actually get a deeper understanding of judo is kind of what I'm after.
Yeah. So how do you practice that? How do you like you mentioned, it's easy to just rep out uchikomi, but say you can structure your own training. How do you practice for the situations that might happen, or how you anticipate someone to react?
Yeah. So I've got this new DVD I filmed maybe 3 weeks ago called Uchikomi Supercharged. Pretty much it's about using uchikomi to help your randori. So, for example, one of the drills is I can do 30 uchikomi of Sioe. Mm-hmm. Now, at the lower levels, that's great because they're still working on their footwork and that sort of stuff. But at the higher levels, if you know all that, how are you going to get the game plan? So I'll do one Sioe, then my partner sits back and I do one Kochi Makakomi. One Sioe, one Kochi Makakomi. Or I'll do one Harai, one switch. One Harai, one switch. I'll do one Sasai, one Osoto. So we're starting to develop game plan amongst your uchikomi. Mm-hmm. So rather than, because if I do uchikomi and I can think about my homework and what I'm doing at school, then that's not real uchikomi. And if my partner can stand there and think about what they're going to have at dinner tonight, then that's not real uchikomi. Real uchikomi is I'm in game plan mode. I'm thinking forwards and back. I'm actually thinking about myself in randori. And on the flip side, your partner should be so off balance that they can't maintain their balance. So they're always readjusting and standing up straight and that sort of stuff. Yeah, so just think about how does this apply to randori. Everything's about how does this apply to randori rather than how does this apply to a completely cooperative partner.
When you were competing, how much time did you spend thinking about your judo and strategizing? Because you sound like a thinker to me.
Yeah, well, not as much as I wish I did. So I think my knowledge of judo has really developed now, but it wasn't so much back then. Back then, my mindset was I'm just going to outwork you. Mm-hmm. Like when you watch that fight against Azumi, I literally just outworked that dude until I threw him with a foot sweep. Like I outworked him, and he was like, I can't keep this pace up for much longer, and then I beat him. Like kind of getting into their head. So I was my judo, I think back then was very much, I'm so fit, I'm so strong, I'm so powerful that I will just wear you down and beat you. Mm-hmm. But now I'm trying to be a bit more like I literally don't train. I don't do much exercise anymore, but I'm still going to beat you through just my superior technique. So I think I've really changed focus now from being an elite athlete machine to a thinker. But back then, I don't think I was as much. No.
Do you think it would have been maybe not easier, but a bit more efficient to win if you thought or you strategized as much as you do now?
Oh yeah, for sure, absolutely. Like strategy and game plan. It wasn't until I met Daniel Kelly who was like, "Okay, so you're drawing a German guy. What's your plan?"
Yeah,
and I was like, "I don't know." He goes, "What's his name? Is he a righty or a lefty?" I was like, "I don't know." He's like, "What do you mean you don't know?" I said, "I don't know. This is in Germany."
Yeah.
I think I drew Greg Vary, which is an English judo player from Bath Uni, I think. Mm-hmm. Anyway, so I drew him first round because he's still around the circuit now, so people listening might know him or whatever. And he beat me by Yuko because I did the worst weight cut, 5 kilos. Anyway, and he beat me. No excuses. He just beat me. Let's just say that. He beat me. And anyway, he said, "What's he do?" I said, "I don't know." "Okay, why don't you know for?" "I don't know. What do you mean?" how am I meant to know? He goes, well, don't you watch him at tournaments and then you write down everything that he does? I was like, oh, what? And he goes, here's my book. It's my stalking book. And I've got the name of every judo player, what country they're from, they're right or left-handed, what throws they do. Sorry, my daughter's crying. Bonnie, Mum's outside. Come on, I'll show you where she is. And so, Daniel just taught me game planning and strategy and really actually watching your opponents and developing a game plan from there. And so, really important. So much of judo is, I want to do this and I want to do that. And that's what my Uchikomi supercharged DVD that's coming out. It's kind of like, okay, what do you do against a lefty? Oh, I don't know. What do you do against a righty? I don't know. Well, as soon as someone grips you left in tournament, you're going to be frozen. If you don't have a game plan right now at training or while we're talking, then you're definitely not going to have a game plan when you're fighting.
Yeah.
So judo is sometimes, not all the time, sometimes judo is more about what they're giving me than what I want.
Yeah.
So in judo, we're like, oh, Uchikomi, I do this and I do that, and I do this and I do that, I do this and I do that. That's cool. That's great. But in randori, they don't give you any of that. So how do you make them give you what you want? Or sometimes people, they're fighting and the person's sitting so far back on their heels and my athlete's trying to throw them with drop Seoi and Uchimata and Haragoshi. And I'm like, they're sitting on their heels. Just do an Ouchi. Oh, and they go to never notice. I'm like, it's because you're not looking at what your partner's doing. When you look at what your partner's doing or how they're reacting, it will then give you a game plan moving forward. Yeah. But if I only focus on me, if I only focus on what I want, I completely miss out on everything else that is given to me because of what they're giving me. Yeah. And so super important. I always use boxing analogies. If my partner has dropped their left hand and it's down at their waist and I'm trying to uppercut them, it's like, but he's giving you a right hook. Just knock his head off. It's clearly open. Yeah. And that only happens through watching what he's giving me opposed to what I want. Yeah. And so as judo players, we need to be able to react from what our partners give us, and we need to be able to lead them down a path, and we need to also be able to force them down the path. So it's so we can either bait them, react them, or force them in a direction. So
bait them, react them, or force them.
Yeah. So bait them is I might dangle my right foot waiting for you to do a diashi. When you do a diashi, I do a sabamageshi and I counter you. Another one might be, I know he's going to do a drop COE, and when he does, I'm going to be proactive and I'm going to do a strangle on him when he drops. And the other one is forcing someone. I'm just going to get a top grip. I'm going to bend you over. I'm going to grab your belt. I'm going to throw you, and there's nothing you can do about it. So if you can develop those three things in your uchikomi, then you're going to develop really good judo.
Yeah.
But instead, most uchikomi is done brain dead. You just stand there and rep out, and it's completely irrelevant to anything of randori. Yeah. Yeah. I was just going to say, like in uchikomi, your partner should stand left foot forward. You do 5 uchikomi, they stand right foot forward. 5 uchikomi, they squat down. 5 uchikomi, they stand up. 5 uchikomi. So you're doing 5 uchikomi from whatever they give you. And you'll find that they'll give you a position. You're like, I don't know what to do from here. Now there's a hole in your judo. Because in training, in competition, when they give you that, you're going to freeze. And you'll also find techniques change. So if I'm doing a COE, right-handed Seonagi, and they put their left foot forward, I'll have to change to a Korean Koga entry. So now my uchikomi is going to change. Mm-hmm. And which is going to then really, really help my randori, because as soon as he puts his left foot forward, I can now do a Koga style CO. And if they're right foot forward, I can do the CO. If they're square, I can do the CO. So it's Bonnie, no eating the Play-Doh. She eats the Play-Doh all the time. But people listening, we make it out of salt and flour. Bonnie, she's funny. Yeah, so there's my little rant on uchikomi and my thoughts around it. But yeah, back in the day, I didn't think about this. I just repped out, and that was it.
So now that you're sort of thinking this way, obviously this is how you're coaching your students. When you're prepping them to go out and fight, to what extent do you do you change? Actually, I'm going to change the perspective of this question a little bit because it's going to simplify it. But say you're going out to fight, Matt. And you know that this is how your opponent fights. You know this is their style. How much of your judo do you change to mitigate their style as opposed to imposing your own judo on them?
So if I know how they fight. Mm-hmm. Oh, okay, yeah, righto. So, yeah, you're exactly right. So I remember someone said like, oh, this coach is really good at teaching me how not to be thrown, but they have no idea how to teach me how to throw someone. Mm-hmm. So, for example, if you're fighting a righty and I can just control the power shoulder or the power hand and you can annul them, that's great. They can't throw me. But now how do I throw them? Is that the question? Like how much do I need to mitigate what they're doing, but also be able to implement judo at the same time?
Yes, but also how much do you change your own judo so that to block their throws, to block their attacks? But then also, say for example, you usually fight right-handed. The way they fight means that the best way for you to defend or to not be thrown is to fight left-handed, but then your throws also aren't left-handed. How much
well, you need to
change?
Yeah. Well, you just need to develop more throws. Like, it's that simple. Like my friend Mohan says, more throws, more options. Less throws, less options. Like, if you only fight right-handed and you need to fight left, well, you're going to be in some trouble, aren't you?
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, it's that simple. So yeah, there's no kind of quick and easy fix. It's just you got to learn more judo. Yeah. And yeah, that's it. I don't think that's all I have.
No, it's a short answer, but it sounds like it's the right one. Sometimes the answers don't have to be complicated. It's just like, do more judo, learn more, and broaden your repertoire.
Yeah, which also means when you go to training, you're now fighting left-handed. Guess what's going to happen? You're not going to throw anyone.
Your ego's going to get challenged. Eh?
Yeah, and you'll go, oh my gosh, I want to fight right. I want to throw this person just once because I've done 6 Uchamadas and I haven't thrown them once, so they're going to be thinking, what's happening to you? Gee, I'm getting better. And you go, do you know what? It's just training. Yeah. Who cares? Yeah. It's just training. Who cares? That's what I was kind of say at my kids' classes. They go, I beat you. Or I won. I won round of training. And I say to the kids, what'd you win? They go, well, I didn't win anything. You didn't win it. You didn't win. You only win if you win a medal. Yeah. Like at training, there's no medals. You can't win at training. Winning, it's just training. Yeah. And there's so many Aussies, and you talk to them, and I've been there myself. Oh, I fought so-and-so, and they're world champion, but I bashed them in training. Well, that's cool. How come you can bash him in training, but he's world champion and you're not? Because obviously there may be the world champion that you've been training that you can do really well against is working on their 6th and 7th best technique, and you're using your number 1 and best technique, and now you're even. But, like so many Aussies are like, oh, yeah, I fought Zantaraya. I did pretty well against him. Yeah, cool. How come he's world champion and you're not?
And now sort of going back into how you've continued to share all your judo experience, you've continued building your knowledge, you're a coach, and you're basically like an online sensei in a way because you're creating so much content. How did you get started with developing an online brand and starting to share your knowledge in that way?
I always liked writing. I like reading. I like writing. And I like filming videos. And so put that all together and boom, you've got me. So, and I was just putting stuff on. Do you want some food? Yeah, come on, let's get some food. My wife's talking to my sister outside. So, come on. And so I just liked filming and writing articles, that sort of stuff. So I had this blog spot, mattdequino.blogspot.com. Anyway, so I liked writing and that's what I had this blog and it was kind of getting a following. And then one of my friend's wives she wrote paleo cookbooks. She wrote like one of the first paleo diet cookbooks. And so she said, hey, Matt, you literally have no money. You're just an athlete with literally $0. Do you want me to help you build a website and sell a product, like a book or something? And I was like, oh, and I was working, I was a personal trainer, strength conditioning, and that. So I kind of had that kind of knowledge and I was writing a lot of articles based on strength conditioning at the time. So she helped me learn how to kind of write books and DVDs because what would happen is, which happens today, is that judo players go to Japan or they go to Korea, they train at 6 a.m, they go for a run, they do their hill sprints. They sit around all day on Facebook all day and they train at judo 4 till 7 at night. Yeah. And then all these athletes are like, oh, I've got no money, I've got no funding. I'm like, well, you're not doing anything to help yourself, are you? You sit around all day, you're not at uni, you're just chatting to your friends all day on Facebook. Seriously, a lot of them do. But so then when we'd go overseas, I'd be writing books on the plane to Europe. I'd be writing articles to Europe. I'd be editing videos on the way to Europe. When we got to Europe or Japan, I would be writing articles. I'd be like building a newsletter, but also helping people. It's not about making money. It's actually about genuinely helping people and actually helping people with stuff that I wish I learned when, like we're talking about, I wish I knew this when I was competing. Yeah. Because now, and my athletes now, they've been with me, my club's been open 4 years. They're like quadruple the judo flyer I was, I think, at the end of my career because I'd be able to just download to them everything that I possibly know, all my everything. And now they're teaching me stuff because they're now where I finished is now like almost where they're at. And now they're building from there. It's awesome. Wow. So anyway, so what I could do was when I went overseas, I could at least make a little bit of money by writing books and stuff while I was overseas rather than sitting around doing nothing, watching 16 seasons of a TV show. Yeah. And I tell you what, when when you're married and you have rent and I'm overseas for 6 months of the year, money's really tight. But you can make it work if you want to.
Yeah, for sure. And
so that's what I did. That's how I kind of got started. And now I've been doing YouTubing, I think now for like 11 years or 12 years now. And I get emails almost not daily now, but weekly of like, thank you so much. Thank you so much. Your videos have helped me. And that's why I keep going, because my videos really do help people. And that's just really cool. And it's really nice that I can help people beyond my judo club. I can help the whole world.
And at the beginning there, was it intimidating for you to put a price on your material and see if anyone would buy it?
Oh, yeah. I mean, I know people in the judo world now that absolutely despise me that I sell stuff online, like despise me. They hate it. They think, I don't know why, but I think the main reason why is because they're too prideful to make one themselves. Because I put myself out there. And even some of my DVDs, even this Uchikomi one, I'll do it, go, whoops, that wasn't that good. I'll do it again, and I'll tell you what I'm going to do, what I did wrong. So I'm not perfect. I'm not the best in the world. But what I am here to do is to give you my absolute best at everything that I have, sort of thing. So, I think putting a price on it, well, no. It takes hours and hours and hours of time, energy, and effort to film and edit, like you with this stuff. I mean, last night my wife and I were in the shed till about, 10:30, filming another DVD on judo with kids to kind of help people. Like, it just takes hours and hours of time. So I don't really mind putting an effort on. And it's not just hours of effort. It's hours of a lifetime of research and self-reflection and learning. Yeah. And that goes into it. Yeah. So I think mainly some people don't like it. Some people hate it. And I go, well, really? I've been doing it judo 30 years now. And I think that's worth something.
Yeah. Especially nowadays, it's a knowledge economy, right? Like your experience and your stories and your time is worth so much. And it's almost a little bit disappointing that judo hasn't been open to that. Like, I understand that it's a sharing culture, but at the same time, people still need to live, and it almost holds back the development of the sport not to have, that value attached to it.
Yeah, I think so. But look, I don't know. Like, even like my judo club, some people say I'm too expensive and my classes are too expensive, but I'm the second largest judo club in Australia. Like, if I'm too expensive, how come there's 250 people that come? Like, obviously, and even if I was expensive, which I don't think I am, compared to gymnastics and swimming and soccer, right? Where 15-year-olds will be teaching your children how to swim or do gymnastics, and you've got Olympians and Australian reps teaching your children judo. But the reason why I charge more than most clubs is because of this. I spend all day watching DVDs, researching, reading books, and then lesson planning. I run a professional club and a professional program. I had one parent, my wife said to this lady, what do you love about judo? And the parent said, I don't care about judo. I don't care what this sport is. All I care about is this is the most positive, fun, most energetic place that my daughter can possibly be, and I want her to be here 2-3 days a week, and I'm willing to pay for that. Like, what a great compliment that our club, yes, we've got a high-level judo, but it's actually a positive, energetic, fun place to be. Parents want their children to be involved in that. Like, that's just the ultimate compliment, and it's got nothing to do with judo.
Yeah, for sure. Like, that's amazing. And it sounds like you're doing something right. I guess for other people who are similar to me and aren't based in Canberra, but they want to sort of get an insight into your resources, your knowledge, your experience, where's the best place for them to find you online? And what's the first sort of resource that they should start with?
Well, it all depends on what you want, really. Like you've referenced that book Hard Fought Lessons. It's on Kindle, I think. So if you're a young up-and-coming judo player and you want to learn... So I wrote that book because, one, I speak in schools. I go around and I speak to up to 500 students at a time, and I just talk about goal setting and resilience and, that sort of stuff. And I was getting asked the same questions by so many different people. What about injuries and what about this? So then I wrote that book. So I just read my book. That's got all the answers in it. So if you're a young up-and-coming judo player, read that book. Yeah. And if you're a judo player, definitely read it, because I've got judo. I've got stories about Karen Briggs and Teddy Reiner and Alexander Karelin, the wrestler. And I've got all these judo stories in there, Koga, and you'll get an insight into me as in who I am and a bit more, I guess, of my internal workings and that sort of stuff. And Maybe you're interested in workouts, then just you can get my kettlebells or my sandbags or bodyweight workouts or strength. It's all on my beyondgrapplingstore.com. Maybe you just want to learn grip fighting. It's whatever you want, really. You can kind of go to my article websites like beyondgrappling.com. But if you want to buy products, it's beyondgrapplingstore.com. If you want to just follow my YouTube, just search Beyond Grappling and it'll come up with there, or Instagram or Facebook. I'll get heaps of different stuff. All stuff that I wish I had when I was doing judo.
Well, Matt, thanks for making time this morning. I know you're a very busy man, and good luck with producing.
Well, not anymore that my club's closed.
Okay.
Well, I shouldn't laugh. It's a really crazy world we live in. There's a lot of people that are going without. So it's easy to start focusing on yourself and, oh no, what about me? But there's so many people out there. But
well,
still
regardless, you've been filming that video and getting more materials out. And listeners, yes, Hard Fought Lessons, I downloaded that off Kindle, so you can read the book without having to leave your house. Thank you, Matt, for sharing your time and your stories. I really appreciate it.
That was awesome. I could talk all day. Thanks so much, Mel.
Thanks. Hey guys, thanks for tuning in and listening to that episode. I sure hope you enjoyed it and got something out of it, whether it be inspiration, entertainment, or just tips on how to update your own training. Don't forget, if you have appreciated the Judo Edit podcast so far and want to chip in to support us, go to patreon.com/thejudoedit or click on the link below. Every little part is appreciated, so thank you so much. Until next time, this is Melissa Buriato signing off.